Look who's with us, Jason Berry. The world's most handsome guest that we've ever had in the history of this program.
He's Mount
Mike's feeling a
Rushmore.
little awkward this morning. You feel, you're next to me every day, and Mr. Hair and makeup over there. You feel better? Jason, welcome to the program. Jason Berry is a real estate expert here in the city of San Diego. As you know, we're at 125 million homes across the country. We're also an American Forces Network and a Bloomberg El Financiero, Bloomberg EU. But we broadcast here in San Diego, which is arguably the worst spot to try to buy a house in the country right now. Two things I want to talk to you about. And you're a local sort of specialty property guy, right?
Yes.
You're in a higher, I guess, if you're listening to us from Opelika, Alabama, you're going to feel much better about yourself right now. What is the median price of a home in the areas like, let's say here in San Diego, you've got like a La Jolla, you've got a Del Mar, you've got a Point Loma, you've got Rancho Santa Fe, some of the higher. For the rest of San Diego, it's about $700,000, $800,000. In these areas, though, it's more like what, $3-4 million?
A little more, actually.
No kidding.
What's interesting is, so if you look back to 2019, pre-COVID, right? We used to look at what is kind of the entry level getting into La Jolla, getting into Del Mar, getting into Rancho Santa Fe, the luxury communities. Those are some of the luxury communities. Yeah. And it was interesting, that was about 3 million back then. That it is escalated now to it's a solid 5.
Wow.
To get into a home that's a decent home, but you're still going to have work.
And the reason I bring up these areas is because you've got the same problem in Dallas, Texas. You've got the same problem in New York City. You've got the same problems in parts of Miami, other parts of the country. Why are these luxury areas becoming so sticky in terms of price point? Is it strictly inventory, or is it just the fact that people are making more money and there's more competition for these houses?
I think yes and yes. I mean, the reality of the situation, it's nice to go back and look at economics, right? Basic economic supply demand, so what you're talking about is right. Inventory's low, period. Yeah. So you've got, it's pressure on prices pushing up. But I think the other reason specifically, and you're right, you can bring up other areas like Dallas, you can bring up, Miami, you can bring up Florida, why so much of the wealth has gone down there as well. But I think you look at basic amenities, right? What is San Diego, what does it offer where we all are here? Right. First and foremost, I think it's best weather. I think we'd all agree with that.
It's not sports, I can tell you that, is it, Mike?
Still hurts.
Yeah, that's
so are we so for those folks that think about coming to San Diego or moving to California, is it really a lot about the weather? Because we're paying 80 cents more per gallon on gas for environmental fees. We're paying a premium just for the water view, right?
Right.
And then, of course, we're in the failed Republic of California in terms of politically speaking. I don't care what side of the political fence you're on. We're not a healthy state in terms of economics, but yet people still come here. How does that affect real estate for the average Joe trying to get this town?
Well, they're looking to answer that question. What you're saying is, why would they come here? And one is the weather. The other are the amenities, right? Or what are those amenities? Well, believe it or not, in those communities, it's safe. It's a safe, secure community. You've got some of the best education that's offered here. You've got fabulous amenities with restaurants, with outdoor lifestyle, and ultimately that's what people are doing, isn't it? They're looking for that quality lifestyle. I think all of us here probably have had the good fortune of being able to travel around the nation, maybe even the world, and I haven't seen a better place to live.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate to be able to sell, live, and experience with my family in Rancho Santa Fe, in Del Mar, in La Jolla, realizing this is the area that we're selling and working. But I believe that is the reason why people are choosing to come here too.
Jason Berry, CEO, Jason Berry Team, Berry Estates, the website, jasonberryteam.com. That's BARRY team.com, and also berryestates.com. How long are properties staying on the market? I mean, are they going like that once they're listed?
And not only exclusive stuff, but overall.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting question and statistic. You constantly hear the news referencing to what are days on market. It's a little bit of a misnomer. Let me explain why. It never takes into account if a property is relisted. Many times these properties are relisted and all of a sudden it's reset on the market, right? So
yeah, because if I was going to sell a house and the thing's set there for 9 days, let's take it off for a minute and put it back on so it shows it's only been on the market for a day, right?
Correct, correct. So there are those loopholes that people will play to go through. But when you're looking at, what Soli was talking about is the basics of supply, right? So if economic supply and demand, supply is low right now. Okay. So if the properties, one thing we're noticing is if they're being priced correctly, they're gone within 30 to 60 days.
My goodness. So for the rest of us, okay, that don't live in the $6 million world, what are you looking at in terms of market trends for 2025? Because look, we got bad news today. Yeah. For the first time, market rates are moving opposite of the Fed rate, where we've seen these mortgage rates that look like, because of the long bond, looking at 4 to 8% again. We were supposed to be in the other direction. Does that affect your feeling about 2025 overall in the real estate market?
It definitely does. I mean, before we were out there, let's say the beginning of the fall, much more optimistic. Now we're cautiously optimistic. It's interesting also that you saw supply was much greater in the beginning of the fall compared to the end of the year. So it dropped.
So that drives prices as well, right?
Correct, but that was also optimism for the new government that's come in, right? So that's interesting. So I think there is optimism for business in that regard, and moving forward, more pro-business.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully that'll kind of counterbalance the rates, which is correct too. And so hopefully we're not going to see a scenario or situation or environment with which rates are going to be raised, but we will see, right? Time will tell. But right now, we are cautiously optimistic still, based on what we're seeing right now. The amount of demand that we have here is very healthy.
Real quickly, before you get to your question, does California set, fashion set in New York and goes west? Does real estate set in the west and go east by any chance?
I would say as far as prices go, I would say it definitely gets set in LA.
No kidding.
I think that is definitely a solid precursor there, in addition to the East Coast too. But then again, it's splintered, right? I mean, you have a lot of those people are going around outside of that too, and San Diego is a hotspot.
So I have a horse in this race because my family home that I grew up in, my mom passed away, and it's up for sale, and it's a beautiful part of town.
It's in a beautiful part of town.
Yeah.
Like one of the higher.
It's in Mission Hill. It's a beautiful view of San Diego.
Beautiful part of town.
It's
No, if you look, it looks at the bay, it looks at downtown. I mean,
you can't get a better view. It's older though, because my parents weren't keeping it, and I said, well, it was their style from back in the 80s.
Right.
Ethan Allen.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, we've heard a different amount of what is being priced at, and some people I would think just want to come in and gut it. But are people doing that, lowering the price so that then they can go in and gut it and redo it themselves?
It's all relative to price.
Okay.
Right. So, for instance, they're looking at that relative to what else can they get at whatever the price is of that home. For instance, they're looking there, what else can you get for whatever the price of that home is compared to maybe some new developments, maybe out at 4S and Del Sur where you're getting some new homes, but then it's about location, right?
Then they don't have the view.
Exactly.
So these are pockets of San Diego, and in every city in the United States has that. I want to ask you about your business, because your biggest competitor is someone named Laura Berry. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
His name is Jason Berry? Yeah. Oh. Your sister?
I've heard of her, yes.
But your biggest competitor.
Yes.
So my question for you, first of all, talk about that, but also what makes you bigger, better, faster, stronger? I mean, what's the tiebreaker? How do you differentiate yourself? So
I can't with my sister. The one thing I can say is
I can't with my sister.
I can't. With my sister.
I just can't.
No, she is. I mean, look, she's a dynamo with her partner Jim, and my partners Ryan and Kendra. So you guys love to talk about sports.
Yeah.
It's like you've got quarterbacks running two different teams, and that's what we are. She's got her team, we've got our team. Everything.
How do we get on that? How do we get on that foundational documents like the will and stuff? So
he's
some
the
of that family money trickles down.
real estate version of the Harbaugh family.
He really is.
When you think about
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
really
I
true.
like that analogy. I think
So how do you differentiate, aside from your sister, from other people around? Because
look,
there's a lot
let's
of
talk
real estate
truth.
people watching.
Let's
this
talk
program.
truth here, don't we?
Let's do it.
It was much harder for me when I first got into business, because I do recall a couple times when I got into business and I was going after a listing with a gentleman that owned a property. He said, Jason, look, I like the way you presented. I like your energy. I love that you sell what you believe, because that's what we push. We do what we believe. He said, I like that. I like the way you had the approach, the plan of action. He said, but your sister was very intoxicating as well, and she's beautiful. I love seeing her, so I'm going to hire her. I said, that's
why Mary's hosting the show after
You
Mike get fired.
can't compete with that. Right.
Well,
Nor do I want to.
That's right.
Nor do I
That's
want
right.
to. I say, look,
Yeah,
that's
no,
what,
totally.
go ahead. I'm going to go on this path.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of traffic in terms of real estate brokers and professionals across the country. And if you were to give a takeaway on what they could do to make them bigger, better, faster, stronger, cheaper as a tiebreaker, is there one thing you can count on? Is it the
To
speed,
other agents, you mean?
Yeah, the
Yes.
velocity in which they respond.
Yes.
Is it what
Yes.
is it?
Yes, I mean, all of that is true what you're saying, but if I were to give one bit of advice, it would be this. There is the moment at which you're doing a deal, and that might be picking up a listing, that might be in the middle of negotiations, in the middle of a deal dying. And let's say, for the sake of discussion, that goes south. It's going south on you. The differentiator between myself and my team, and I believe a lot of these other agents, because I experienced it too, is I love it when that point of recognition happens where you realize that this thing is going south, it's done, it's over. That's where we dig in. That's
All
where we
right.
figure out,
So
okay,
there's an
you know
opportunity.
what?
Buy
This
straw
is
hats
where-
in the winter.
Yeah,
Buy
well,
umbrellas in the summer, right?
Exactly.
Dig
This
in.
is the excuse for everybody to say this is why we can't succeed. No, no,
Yep.
no. This is the opportunity.
But wait a second though. But can you guys compete? I mean, you guys are a niche market, and there's niche markets all across this country, mom and pop guys. How do you compete with Berkshire Hathaways and Sotheby's and Caldwell Banker? And how do you even compete with those guys?
Great question. The reality is understanding how the market works. And it's funny because there is another misnomer out there that you have, for instance, like you said, Berkshire Hathaway or Sotheby's, with thousands of offices all over the nation, right? So when I first got into business, it was very frustrating for me back in the 90s. I'd go out on listing appointments, and they would say, well, we are going to go out with Berkshire Hathaway because how can you compete exactly what Sully's saying with thousands of offices? It would frustrate me because what does that mean? I mean, I like to break things down. First principles, Elon Musk, right? What does that mean? Yeah. That means to me, if someone's saying that to me, that means if they've got thousands of offices, you have thousands of offices working for you, right? Okay, well, is that true? I like to know the truth. So back in the 90s, I made calls to the other offices, not cross-country, in Encinitas. And I said, hey, I'm
6 miles away.
Calling about your listing there in Del Mar. Yeah, you got the wrong office. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
So it was a misnomer, right? So then what I decided is let's go create something real. So that's what we did. We then traveled up and down the
So
coast.
authenticity carries the day as usual.
Yeah.
Jason Berry, the CEO, Jason Berry Team and Berry Estates. The website to find him is jasonberryteam.com, also berryestates.com.
You guys are awesome.
You need to come back often.
You guys are awesome.
Will you come back often?
love to
You're not going anywhere. Running out of here, so he's trying to get away from you.
Well,
No, you guys are awesome.
That Funyun smell is what he's trying to get away from. Jason, Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com. We're back in a minute.
Great.